Look at the chessboard. Where do your eyes instinctively go? Naturally, you watch the queen, sliding across the board with absolute, terrifying freedom. You watch the knights, leaping over barriers with chaotic brilliance. You watch the king, the piece around which the entire universe revolves. But you ignore the pawn. We all do. It's the shortest piece, the weakest. It moves one agonizing square at a time. To the untrained eye, it's nothing more than cannon fodder, expendable. But what if I told you that you've been looking at the board all wrong? What if the true masterclass in strategy, resilience, and human psychology isn't found in the royalty hiding at the back, but in the humble foot soldier standing at the front? In chess, grandmasters have a saying, "Pawns are the soul of chess." And in the game of life, the psychology of the pawn is the ultimate blueprint for the underdog, because the pawn is the only piece on the board that holds the secret to true transformation. The pawn is the only piece in chess that can never move backward. Think about that. If a queen makes a mistake, she can retreat. A bishop can slide back to safety. A knight can jump away from danger. But a pawn commits. Once it steps forward, it owns that square. There is no undoing the move. There is no retreating to the safety of the starting line. How often do we wish we had the luxury of the queen in our own lives? To hit rewind, to undo a bad decision, take back a spoken word, or retreat to our childhood bedrooms when the weight of the world gets too heavy. But the pawn mirrors the most brutal, beautiful reality of the human condition. Time only moves in one direction. The pawn teaches us the psychology of radical commitment. Because it cannot retreat, it must make every single step count. It doesn't rely on flashy leaps or sudden escapes. It relies on relentless, deliberate forward motion. It whispers a fundamental truth. Progress doesn't require massive, sweeping gestures. It just requires you to move one square forward today. But what happens when that forward motion is violently blocked? Imagine our pawn marching down its path when suddenly a massive enemy piece lands directly in front of it. It's stuck. It can't jump over the obstacle like a knight or smash through it like a rook. But the pawn has a secret weapon, a hidden geometry. While it marches straight, it attacks diagonally. When the path ahead is blocked, the pawn doesn't despair. It waits, it observes, and when an opportunity appears slightly to the side, it pivots. It strikes laterally, capturing the piece and stepping onto an entirely new path. This is the psychology of adaptability. Society conditions us to believe that success is a straight line. Go to school, get the job, climb the ladder. But what happens when the ladder breaks? What happens when the industry changes, or the relationship fails, or the plan falls apart? Most people freeze. They stare at the massive obstacle blocking their square. But the pawn mindset says, if you can't go through it, look for the diagonal. Look for the unconventional pivot. Sometimes, the only way to keep moving forward is to step sideways into a completely new dimension of the board. Now, a single pawn alone in the middle of the board is a target. It's easily surrounded, easily destroyed, but something magical happens when pawns link together. They form a diagonal wall, a pawn chain. In this formation, the pawn at the back protects the one in front of it, which protects the one in front of it. They become an impenetrable fortress. Even the mighty queen hesitates to attack a united pawn chain. This is the psychology of interconnectedness. In an era that worships the self-made lone wolf, the pawn reminds us that true invincibility comes from community. You're only as strong as the people standing diagonally behind you, guarding your blind spots. Yet being part of a larger strategy sometimes requires the ultimate test: sacrifice. In chess, players frequently use gambits, intentionally offering a pawn to the enemy. Why give up a piece for nothing? Because the pawn understands something profound. Sometimes you must lose a battle to win the war. By sacrificing itself, the pawn clears a path for the bishop. It rips open the center of the board. It trades short-term survival for a long-term strategic masterpiece. In your own life, what are you refusing to sacrifice? Are you holding on to a comfortable job, a toxic relationship, or a bad habit simply because it feels safe? The pawn challenges you to let go of temporary comfort to unlock your greater purpose. But all of these lessons, commitment, adaptability, unity, and sacrifice, lead to the pawn's ultimate destiny. If a pawn survives the chaos of the board, if it marches through the enemy lines, dodges the rooks, survives the knights, and finally places its foot on the 8th rank, the opposite edge of the board, everything changes. The moment the pawn touches that final square, it undergoes a complete metamorphosis. It can be promoted into a bishop, a knight, a rook, or, most often, a queen. It is the only piece in the entire game that can fundamentally change its identity. A queen is born a queen. A knight is born a knight. They are limited by the conditions they were born into. But the pawn? The pawn is defined entirely by its potential. This is the ultimate psychological truth of the pawn. It doesn't matter that you started out small. It doesn't matter that you were born with limited resources, or that people overlooked you, or that your progress was painstakingly slow. Your starting position does not dictate your destiny. Your willingness to cross the board does. Think of the past pawn. A pawn that has broken past the enemy lines with nothing but an empty path ahead of it. Grandmasters fear a passed pawn more than they fear a queen, because a passed pawn is unstoppable, raw potential. When you commit to moving forward, when you adapt to the diagonals, when you build your chain and make the right sacrifices, you become a passed pawn in your own life. The world is full of people trying to be kings, demanding to be protected and served. It is full of people trying to be flashy knights, seeking shortcuts and leaping over the hard work. But the true game belongs to those who embrace the psychology of the pawn. So the next time you feel small, the next time you feel like your progress is too slow or the obstacles ahead are just too large, remember the board. Keep your head down. Make your move. Take it one square at a time, because across the board, your promotion is waiting.